something might be like the differences between men and women, that hasn't stopped people from trying to argue the opposite. Isn't it telling that one of history's most deceptive and evil leaders said, the greater the lie, the greater the chance that it will be believed? That was Adolf Hitler. This, of course, would not be possible unless people willingly chose to ignore facts, logic, and common sense and support that lie. Cartoon character Homer Simpson sums it up well by saying, it takes two to lie, one to tell, one to listen. Now, in some cases, there might be a gray area where all the facts aren't known or where there are extenuating circumstances, but in others, all the information, evidence, and testimonies are clear, evident, and available, and yet still a battle about the truth rages on.
The question, when does life begin, is almost an idiotic question from the standpoint of science.
I think a better question would be, what else is a fetus? You know, because if the question is a fetus a human being, at what point does it become a human being? Well, it becomes a human being at the point it can't become anything else. And there's not any point from the point where the sperm and the egg meet that it can ever become anything other than a human being. It's not going to become an aardvark or an artichoke or a chicken. It's going to be a human baby.
Well, that people understand how we decide, we being scientists, physicians, biologists, what's human. You know, you hear a lot of discussion about how do we define ourselves as human beings, and typically people talk about, you know, things like our intelligence or our language, and there are debates about those kinds of things. But there's one core principle by which we can define human beings, and it transcends everything else, and that is our human genome. It is unique for our species. There's no other organism that has that genome. And what makes us human is the expression of the information in our human genome. So that's why the beginning of human life is when the egg and the sperm come together. The egg contributes half the genome, the sperm contributes the other half of the genome, and you get a complete human genome.
No one would dispute that anything that grows, where there's cell division, two cells become four and four become eight, that's alive. There is no other way to define it. That is a characteristic of life. Dead things cells don't divide. When the instant death occurs, cells quit dividing. So scientifically speaking, the fetus from the moment of conception is alive and is human. There is no scientific argument about that.
It is no longer a part of her, but it is still a human being. And unlike her skin cells, it started out as an egg and a sperm that came together, and that's what makes it a human being, even though it at that moment depends on her for survival.
We have to distance ourselves from the truth. So we use euphemisms. We call the baby, newly conceived baby, a blob of tissue. Product, menstrual extraction is another word for abortion. A blood clot. But anything to distance ourselves from the truth. There really is another human person developing.
And, you know, the idea that abortion is a controversial view is in itself, you know, something that needs examination. You know, what is controversial about not killing your children? Think of the propaganda machine, the effort, the money, the time to completely turn an entire society's worldview around so far that they become, that they favor infanticide as a means of population control.
I was so filled with shame and guilt because I knew that I had crossed a line. When I laid on that table and the abortion began, I was convicted in my heart that what I was doing was wrong. And I felt powerless to stop it. And I had really what I would call a right order response to death. And it was death on more than one level. I experienced the death of my child. I was very conscious of the child's death. And then I
should never view murder as an answer to any human problem. It's not really up for us to decide. There are extreme cases, there are hard cases, such as rape, such as the mother's life is in danger, but I mean, hard cases don't make good laws, and we've seen that throughout history.
And I can tell you firsthand that I did get over the date rape, but I didn't get over the abortion. I think we do a great disservice to women who have the trauma and the horror of experiencing the violation of their person through rape, and then to offer to them a violation that's even greater.
I think that people who say that they're pro-choice and say that it's okay if a woman can have an abortion or not have an abortion, it's not being open to life. So if they see death as an answer, if they see murder as an answer, it doesn't seem like a choice to me.
Reality sets in. There really was a person here. Did that person feel pain when they died? What would that person say to me now if they were looking me in the eye? Would they say, "Mommy, I forgive you," or "Mommy, I hate you"? You know, those are real hard questions that a post-abortive man or woman has to answer.
Taken from pro-abortion sources, approximately 42 million babies are terminated each year worldwide. That's 115,000 a day. In the U.S. alone, approximately 3,700 babies are aborted every day. And for anyone who thinks that beliefs don't affect actions, think about those statistics. If the general perception was that a fetus was a distinct living human being, would 115,000 be murdered every day? But then again, maybe there are too many people to begin with. Maybe for the greater good, it's important to keep our numbers down by